So early on in my job search, one of the biggest misconceptions and beliefs that I had was that my resume needed to be one page and it shouldn't be any longer than that. And so, in the beginning, when I'm applying to jobs and seeing all these different roles, I'm wanting to get as much information as I can on this one page. And so I was doing everything you could think of, right? So I'm like updating the page margins, like switching up the line weight, the font size, literally everything you could think of to try to get it to one page. But it's something that I think was kind of always told to me, even in college. People tell you, you go to career counselors, and people would say, like, oh, keep it to one page so it's scannable and readable. And looking back now, I realized that that could have that could be a reason why in the beginning of my job search I wasn't really getting interviews, and I didn't really feel like what I was doing was really making an impact, yet I was spending so many hours like applying and searching for jobs. It, to me at the time, looking back, it's like it was a full-time job. And I think once I started using Teal, a big thing, I'll never forget this, but like one of the biggest things that stood out to me was, I put together my resume in my Google Doc, and I thought that it was well tailored to the job that I was applying for at the time. And I remember feeling like so confident, and I came across Teal and I was like, all right, let's plug this in here and like let's see what it tells me. And I was a free user for like the first week. And so this was like one of the first projects I was doing in Teal. And I quickly upgraded because I wanted to see all the keywords and I wanted like all of the scores. And so I uploaded this resume, right? And my match score was like 20%, which is not good. And so for me, I was like, oh, dang, like, all right, it's not as good as I thought it was. So it really like helped me take a different approach to how I was putting together my resume for each job. In the past I had thought like tailoring your resume. If your last job has the same role title as a job you're applying for, it's pretty easy for a recruiter to see that, you have experience and you're qualified. But, I wasn't taking into consideration all of my achievements and making sure that they're quantifiable and having, actual metrics and sharing the projects that I was doing and really going into detail to really showcase what I can bring to the table and like the value that I offer. I think that when I was in this whole one-page resume uh mentality, I was not necessarily, focusing as much on my achievements and showing impact that way as I was in showing how many jobs I've had, the duration I've had these different jobs. And so I definitely think that that had like a negative impact on my search. But honestly, like once I started tailoring my resumes the right way, and I was actually paying attention to the job description and making sure that, if a skill was mentioned or a product was mentioned, a tool, and I was proficient in it, that I was including that in my, in my skills section. If they had, questions about not questions, but if they had a job duty had to do with like creating content briefs about X, Y, or Z, that I was really like making sure that my achievements were completely aligned. And I think that that is truly what helped me in the end, was being able to match my resume to a job, being able to, kind of have that relaxed, I don't know, that clarity, I guess, like that relaxed, like kind of breath of fresh air that, okay, this isn't bad. It actually is tailored. Maybe the likelihood of them calling me back or emailing me or whatever, um, maybe it's going to happen. And so it definitely like um, helped my mental focus during my job search. But it didn't really come to fruition until like I would say about a week afterwards, which isn't very long. But I was unemployed for 2 months before this, before I started using Teal. And so for me, it was one of those things where, once I started seeing that I was getting emails for interviews, I was like, what the heck? Like, what's changed? But then I'm like, oh yeah, well, my resume, and I'm using Teal. And uh it was just like a really big eye opener for me and made me realize that it's really about showing your impact and being able to articulate your value. And sometimes you can do that in a page, and sometimes you need more than one page to do that, and that is totally okay. And there's really no right or wrong way to do it as long as you are actually tailoring and showing that you have the experience that they're asking for.